Well, welcome to our Tuesday call. And before we get started, of course, I have to read the medical disclaimer. So the information provided is for educational purposes. It is not intended as medical advice or a substitute for medical advice of a physician or other qualified healthcare professional. We do not aim to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease, and you should always consult with a doctor or other healthcare professional for medical advice or information about diagnosis and treatment. And the information in this presentation has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration or any other medical body. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Dr. Doreen Narbo, and I am your host on today's call. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a clinical researcher and an author of several books. So welcome everyone to our, I always say product Q&A call, but of course we never seem to get to the product Q&A part of it, but maybe today we might be able to do it. So today I'm with Clayton Thomas, who is the chairman and the founder of Root. And Clayton has over 25 years of experience in the health and wellness industry. And for the past 16 years, Clayton has focused on detoxification and supplementation formulations with the simple philosophy, cure the cause. So hello, Clayton, and welcome to our Tuesday call.
Happy Tuesday. What's the fun for today?
Well, today our surprise topic is all about connecting the dots and putting the pieces of the puzzle together on how Clean Slate, which in my opinion is one of the most important foundational products that we can take. And I think that you'll really see that as we go through this presentation. But before we're going to get started, I'm going to go ahead and recap last Tuesday. So last week we learned about extremely low frequencies, which we call ELFs. We learned about intermediate frequencies, which are IFs, and electric and magnetic fields, which are EMFs. And the use of electricity has become an integral part of everyday life. Wherever electricity flows, both electric and magnetic fields exist close to the lines that carry the electricity and close to the appliances that we use every day. So, and since the 1970s, questions have been raised whether the exposure to these extremely low frequencies and the EMFs produce adverse health consequences. And we're surrounded literally, all day in a man-made electrical field. And the issues of heavy metal toxicity in relation to electromagnetic toxicity may be one of the most significant. And according to Dr. Yoshiaki Omura, who is a general practitioner and a cardiologist for more than 50 years, says that your system is contaminated with heavy metals from silver amalgam fillings, eating contaminated fish, for example, or living downstream from coal-burning power plants and so forth, that the body actually becomes a virtual antenna that can concentrate the radiation, making it far more destructive. We also learned that EMFs actually accelerate micro leakage of amalgam restorations. In addition to that, fertility is also a big issue, affecting sperm, reduction in estrogen and progesterone, and also chromosomal mutations. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect the dots and put the pieces of the puzzles together of all the talks that we have done so that you can see the big picture. And remember, this is a work in progress. First of all, and before we get started, I really would like to give a shout out to Claire G. Harvey for her contribution and time, because I think when you see this, that you'll understand that this was quite a task to do in just a short amount of time that we had, because we only have like a week to put these together. And there are a lot of information, a lot of science and things like that. So what we hope to do in this presentation is to answer these questions. What is Clean Slate? Why do we need Clean Slate? How do we take it, and what to expect? So Clean Slate, unlike any other, is a passive detoxification support solution sourced from the only pristine mine available, making this an extraordinary, unique product of 97% clinoptilolite and 3% bentonite. It uses a proprietary fracking and polarization process to create a solution of fragments that produce a high amount of bioavailable silicon dioxide, which is known as orthosilicic acid. And one of the best sources of natural zeolite is clinoptilolite, which is known to provide the best source of bioavailable silica, again, which is silicon dioxide. And removing toxins from cellular binding sites is crucial to supplement with trace minerals. So they've added it to the solution, full spectrum trace minerals from a pure source, which is the Great Salt Lake. In addition, they added vitamin C, which provides stability and assists in improvement of the membrane's permeability. So as a foundational product, Clean Slate supports a passive systemic removal and detoxification of heavy metals, organic pollutants, glyphosates, viral particles, mold spores, bacterial biotoxins, and other persistent organic compounds and forever chemicals. And this is a standalone proprietary process and formulation, and most importantly, it's a foundational product that is needed in this toxic world. And when we look at Zero In, this is a sibling to Clean Slate, and together they work synergistically. And Zero In helps to reduce oxidative stress. It improves cognitive function, memory, learning, and alertness. In addition, it stimulates dopamine and serotonin while enhancing peak physical performance and mental acuity and focus. It increases your antioxidants and decreases anxiety and stress. It is a definite stress buster that basically brings you back to your happy space. So why do we need Clean Slate? Well, we are all preloaded with a chemical soup of toxins before we're born. We used to think that the placenta protected the fetus from exposure to potentially harmful chemicals. However, we now know that this is not true. There are more than 84,000 chemicals that are used in North America, and examinations of the European Union REACH registry estimates the number of chemicals in commerce globally is closer to 143,000 chemicals. And researchers from the Environmental Working Group conducted the body burden study, and they analyzed umbilical cord blood and found 287 industrial chemicals in the blood with an average of 200 per baby, including polyaromatic hydrocarbons, dioxins, furans, pesticides, chemicals from flame retardants, industrial lubricants, plastics, consumer products, ingredients, and waste from burning coal and gasoline and garbage. And in the second follow-up study, 5 laboratories in the US, Canada, and Europe identified 232 industrial compounds and pollutants in umbilical cord blood. Chemicals detected included perfluoral chemicals, polybrominated diphenyl esters, polychlorinated biphenyls, just to name a few. Okay, so in addition to heavy metals such as lead, mercury, methyl mercury. And even worse, a new study detected a whole new range of chemicals showing up in babies' cord blood for the first time. And some of these new offenders include tetrabromo bisphenol, one of the most prevalent flame retardants. Okay, so it's used in plastic paints, synthetic textiles, electrical devices from computer circuit boards, synthetic fragrances used in common cosmetics and detergents, and Teflon-related perfluoroanoic acid. And the developing fetus is especially at risk from these effects as it grows rapidly and lacks systems to process waste and flush out toxins as they absorb higher levels of toxic chemicals, and the blood-brain barrier is not fully developed until after birth. Also, studies have shown that the endocrine system is more sensitive to the effects of toxic exposures during human development, especially gestation, infancy, and puberty. Based on input from 45 experts in oncology and cancer prevention, the panel concluded that environmental causes of cancer in hormone-sensitive tissues in humans, such as breast, testes, thyroid, prostate, and ovaries, are on the rise sharply. And between 1973 and 1998, the rate of testicular cancer in US males skyrocketed by 44%. That was pretty amazing. Breast cancer rates are increasing in most industrialized countries, and the rise cannot be fully explained by improvements in mammography or changes in risk factors such as inheritance or age at the time of childbearing. And thyroid cancer rates have been increasing more rapidly than any other solid tumor cancers, basically grossly underestimated. So heavy metals are ubiquitous and enter the food supply by contaminated soil, pesticides, air pollution, and water. Mercury is considered the most environmental toxic heavy metal, and studies demonstrate that mercury during prenatal exposure has the ability to reduce the number of neurons and cellular arrangement in tissues, specifically in the cerebral cortex. And mercury accumulates in your kidneys and the brain. It's also found in numerous tissues throughout the body, and exposure increases the risk of developing cardiovascular and neurological diseases. It is believed that the mechanisms are related to the toxic increase of reactive oxygen species, which is associated with neurodegenerative diseases. And then you have dental amalgams or silver fillings have about 50% mercury. And the main route of exposure is by inhalation of the vapors. The lung tissues absorb approximately 80% of the inhaled vapors, which penetrate the blood-brain barrier, as well as it's also a documented neurotoxicant. And over time, mercury bioaccumulates, and it provokes the immune system, inflammatory system. It also, for genetics, epigenetic changes that occur, and it's been described in the range of, joint disease, bone, connective tissue disorders. And then we come to lead. Lead is a highly toxic compound. It is very dangerous because it easily crosses the placenta, damages the fetal brain and peripheral nerves. It is absorbed and stored in our bones, blood, and tissues. It doesn't stay there permanently. Rather, it's stored there as a source of continual internal exposure. And as we age, our bones demineralize, and the internal exposures may increase due to larger releases of lead from bone tissue. And then we have cadmium. And so just so you know, what I'm going over right now are all the things that we've actually talked about. These obviously are not all the heavy metals because we haven't gone through all of them, but these are like some of the main ones that we've talked about in our past conversations. So cadmium is a highly toxic compound that produces various genotoxic effects such as DNA damage, strand breaks, DNA protein cross linkage, and chromosomal aberrations. It's considered considered a mutagenic and a carcinogenic substance. Once absorbed, it bioaccumulates throughout life, and as a result, the latest cadmium studies on exposure causes cancers in the lung, endometrium, bladder, breast, prostate, kidney, and most recently, pancreatic cancer. And then we have arsenic, which is a known carcinogenic and a possible mutagenic. Long-term exposure to the metal is known to cause lung, kidney, skin, and bladder cancer. It also interferes with estrogen and testosterone, as well as with the hormones that regulate your metabolism and immune system. And then we have aluminum. It's known as a neurotoxin agent. Diet is the main source of exposure, and aluminum in the human body has been demonstrated to bioaccumulate in soft and skeletal tissues. And heavy metals are found in textiles, materials like your clothes, your bed linen, even your bed, so your mattress. It's also found in personal care products such as your makeup, perfume, sunscreens, nail polish, hair dyes, moisturizers, mascara, whitening, toothpaste, your food, aluminum pots and pans, your drinking water, and furniture. And even the snow and rain have, aluminum in it and other heavy metals. So we also talked about air pollution, and we went over these issues regarding air pollution. We also discussed about glyphosate, and those are the points that we discussed as well. It affects all living creatures. And we also discussed fluoride and all these points here. We went over EMFs in great detail. Every slide here we've gone over is an hour-long conversation. And all of these things you can find on the YouTube to get more information, to really, dig deep. And we also talked about autism, and these are all the points that we touched on as well. We also talked about autoimmune diseases, and these are just a few that we covered. And like I said, again, there's more to come. This is a work in progress. And again, you can go to YouTube, to the root brands. And then we also discussed neurotransmitters, melatonin, serotonin, and dopamine. Of course, we have extensive conversations about the pineal gland and how this all hangs together. And then we also covered body systems such as the cardiovascular system in terms of how it relates to heavy metals. We discussed certain issues on the urinary system as well. And these are, again, lymphatic system. We discussed NFKB, the gut homeostasis, interstitial fluids, dietary lipids. And then these are just other things that we've discussed as well. Digestive system, the endocrine system, and all these issues here that we've discussed. Integumentary system, which is, we discussed a lot about collagen and the skin and how this all works together. We talked about the tattoo inks and how that works. And we covered extensively this antioxidant oxidant system as well with reactive oxygen species. And of course, we have done some on the reproductive system. We still have to go through, I think, a really deep dive into fertility, because I think that this is a topic that a lot of people are really interested in, especially now that, it's so hard to get pregnant and the fertility issues that people are having.
Well, and with the recent data coming out, that what we're watching or what we're living in is an extinction event. And
Yeah.
with environmental exposure of different toxins, I had a friend send me, I think it was a recent article that even talks about the shrinkage in men with a reduction in penis size over time because of the issues. The big thing is the impact on fertility for men and women, right? And it's not a one-sided issue. And I think this is something that's been really, really heavily carried by women, right? You can say the inability to get pregnant is not just on the female, but then I think the bigger conversation is the miscarriage rates and how the environmental issues have such a tremendous impact on miscarriage rates. And those are statistics that are not discussed because it's such an emotional trauma on women a lot of times that it's not something that we can really track really good data on, because sometimes women don't know that they are pregnant and other times they don't want to talk about losing a baby. So, but we do need to dive into that more.
Okay, so then we also touched on the skeletal system. We talked a lot about like dental fluorosis. This was in our fluoride talks, glyphosate. So you see how they kind of they all overlap. We did a lot about vitamin D. We talked about the autism that was in the vitamin D, and then vitamin D had its own hour. So these are all the topics that we start putting it together because we like to put the pieces of the puzzle together and connect the dots. Heavy metals, and as I said before, it's everywhere. It's in the air we breathe, it's in the food, it's in the water we drink, it's in the soil where we grow our foods. It's everywhere. And then we have air pollution on top of it. So not only are we getting the heavy metals, but we're breathing it in as well. And there's all kinds of other pollution. And then we have glyphosates. Then these are all the points that we've hit on all these talks here. And then we have the fluoride. I mean, that's a lot of stuff there. And then we have EMFs. So if we look at all of these things here, I mean, this is the framework of it, right? Okay. So one of the things that you like to talk about, Clayton, is addition by subtraction. And as you like to say, that we've been taught over the years that we need to, like how we need to supplement, in order to maintain health. But we have to unlearn this process, right? Because the key to wellness in our world today is actually addition by subtraction, right? So what that means is that you have to get out the bad stuff first before you can add the good stuff. It's known as the Band-Aid approach, the temporary fix. You can't keep putting any supplement into an unhealthy environment and expect a great outcome. It's just not going to happen. So that's basically guaranteed to fail. You need to get to the root cause of the issue, and that means you need to reset your environment. So again, these are areas that we've touched on. So neurotransmitters, we've got cardiovascular, the endocrine system. These are all the issues that we've talked about. What? That's so funny.
No, it's just you look at the content, you start tying everything together. I think for people that are seeing this the first time, you can go, oh. And I was having a conversation with a colleague yesterday about this when we were going over our principles. He's like, what does simplicity mean? And it's like, well, if you can break down something complex to make it really, really simple, then you actually are teaching something. And like you've done such a great job over the last year of, I mean, this slide alone is basically your PhD in environmental toxicology broken down really simply. And this is here is what the issues are. We know what the impacts are. And then the question is, do you want to do anything about it?
Right. And so then if we look at this, these are the issues that all of those things cause, right? I mean, but that's just, I mean, this is just like, we're just touching the surface. This isn't everything.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you're looking at six primary areas. But one of the things that really intrigued me the most when I started in this journey is back in 1974. What is that? 60 years ago almost. The World Health Organization had published that at the time they knew that anywhere from 80 to 90% of all chronic degenerative diseases were caused by environmental toxins.
Yeah.
So, and the scariest part is I've really started to dive into some of these other areas over the last year because of looking at outcomes and talking with people. Even the components that we think are truly genetic are actually environmental. They're just done in the womb. The Down syndrome, the sickle cell trait in the African American or the Black population. They're actually not genetic. They are familial, but it's where the damage is done to the DNA and when it's done that's so crucial. So it's we try to hammer it home, consistently. There is only one problem, just one. And then once you remove that, everything else starts to come into line.
Okay, well, and here's a little something interesting.
Oh.
So it takes 120 days for cellular renewal of your red blood cells. So, but what happens at 5 to 7 days here, you're having intestinal epithelial renewal. Within 10 days, your white blood cells and your platelets are renewing. Your taste buds within 2 weeks are renewing. 28 to 30 days for lung and skin. We have 60 days for liver renewal and 120 days for red blood cells. Why is that important?
Well, it's recycling. And I think we can institute a new challenge based on this. It's 120 days to a new you.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
And I think this is so crucial to understand because, and it's actually blown me away of the results that people are getting in such a short period of time. But for anybody that poses the question of, oh, I used Clean Slate for a week or I used Clean Slate for a month and I haven't seen results and I don't know if it's working, just wait.
That's exactly why we put this slide here, because of that reason, because you have to give it time. It takes time, as we can see here, 120 days to new red blood cells. But it's happening every day, right? So I thought this was really interesting here. Like this slide here says it all. Autophagy. What does that mean? is self-eating, right? It refers to the sophisticated system in which this cellular waste is specifically detected and removed. It contributes to regular cell renewal. It secures the quality control. It protects against diseases. And defects in this pathway can promote cancer, developmental, and neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, and it contributes to infectious diseases and inflammatory reactions, which is why it's important that, you know, you have clean cells to start with. And if you look here, I mean, this is really interesting. Look at this, Clayton. Each square here, each rectangle represents 1% of all 30 trillion cells. And if you look down here, by mass, 49% are blood cells, 41% are gut cells.
Well, and you look at the 41% being gut cells, and this, we could probably pull Stefan on this because he's researching so heavily about the gut and the microbiome. And we've touched on numerous times about how the majority of the research being done right now, especially in autism and such, is focused on the gut and the microbiome. But when you go back to the previous slide, you look at the first 5 to 7 days, you know, in that 120-day process, it's the gut. And you can look at a lot of the benefits of Clean Slate and also what Zero In are doing, and Restore's getting done of where that focus is in the gut. But this is what really makes us so unique, right? Is many people will have the conversation about the gut-brain connection, but they actually can't tie those two together. Or they might be able to talk about addressing one and will miss the other. But even if they do talk about addressing both, they're not able to connect the two. And, you know, if we continually call it the Trinity, and because I'll include Restore in this now, when people start to experience all three products, we will, as you've gone over before, if you watch the diabetes presentation, if you look at the data that's already been done on nanotized clinoptilolite in a powdered form and black cumin seed oil, you can say bye-bye to type 2 diabetes. And so you sit at a precipice right now of an opportunity. If you're already here, you probably have already experienced Clean Slate and Zero In, and if you haven't, welcome. But tying in what Restore is going to do, you know, and you're going to see people light up because of what's going to happen to their bodies in really, really quickly. But as we were just hitting on, if you want a challenge for people to invest in your health, you will be justly rewarded. But if you put value on your well-being, if you do that for 4 months, you're virtually guaranteed to be a completely different person. And that's what's going to be unique. And then if you do that continually over time, you will find that you will reconstruct who you are physically, probably emotionally, mentally, and the coolest part is spiritually. And it's part that this will be one that we can dive into on a separate conversation that will take a couple hours. But the spiritual aspect of what's happening in people is really, really the cool part.
So how do we take Clean Slate? 1 to 2 drops in a glass of water once or twice a day, titrate up to 10 drops twice daily as needed. And of course, we always say medications, you should always check with your healthcare practitioner 2 to 4 hours before or after any medication. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. So what to expect when you take Clean Slate? Well, like I say up there, don't rush the process. Good things take time. This is not a regular, this is a passive detoxification, right? You're not supposed to feel anything. So a lot of people are so ingrained in this whole thought process of, I got a headache, I take an aspirin, it goes away in 20 minutes. And people expect that. This is what we've come to. This is not going to work that way. You can take, a couple drops and not feel anything. And, just just over time, and you can titrate yourself up. I mean, I never did that. When I first got my bottle, it just said take 10 drops, right? So I did 10 drops and I'm thinking, oh, I just do only the 10 drops and I won't do any more. And I think I called you, Clayton, and I said, gosh, my hair, like it felt like my hair was like tied up in a knot on the top of my head, like pulled really tight like that. And my scalp was actually hurting. And so then you told me about that I needed the minerals, right? That I wasn't putting like, oh, are you taking minerals? I go, no, I'm not taking minerals. And I remember I put some minerals in, and then I felt like, oh my gosh, I felt like I had 2 glasses of wine. I can't function like this. I can't feel like that. So, so then I started drinking more water, and and then and then I just, went and did the 10 drops, and I was, of course, I was fine. But not everybody can do that. People that are like really sensitive, they can only do like 1 or 2 drops. We've had amazing results, and we'll show you that later. We have incredible results with people just taking 1 or 2 drops. And so you have to kind of, play with it a little bit and see, what resonates with your body. Everyone's unique, everyone's different. And so, you're going to have your own experience, and you have to listen to your body in terms of what like, okay, do I need more? Do I need less? I do it different every day. I don't do the
Yeah.
same thing every day, right?
And it's so important to really understand the systemic process of true systemic detoxification, which is what we're doing. That it is something that needs to be done slowly, and if it is done, one, improperly, and two, too quickly, you can hurt yourself. The risk of damage neurologically, physically, um, is rather high if you try to be too aggressive with real systemic detoxification. And what makes Clean Slate so special is exactly what you're hitting on. Now, adding the trace minerals,
Mhm.
having them in the bottle, as and allowing the fragments to act as a carrier of those, and being able to very, very slowly get acclimated to a process that you're able to adjust to your environment. Because in every other aspect of life, the last thing that we like is shock. If you have a dramatic impact on someone really, really quickly, you're creating a shock to their system that they usually can't overcome. It's like, right? If you don't have to do that, you can get more acclimated to your environment. If you're teaching your child to swim, you don't throw them in the deep end. You start in the wading pool, you get used to the water, and then you go through the process. This is the same way. And like Dora, you mentioned, you have the ability to dictate that process as much as you like. And as you go forward in life, as you really start to clean up your body, and I'm fortunate that I can speak to this for doing this for 16 years, that based on your environmental exposure and your predicted environmental exposure, and we've gone over the aerotoxic aspect, that if you know you're going into an environment that is going to be more toxic, you can prep. You can take more drops going in, knowing that you've got this internal protection system working for you while you're getting exposed. And so initially it's about cleaning up the mess. Then going forward, it's about protection and it's about planning too.
So root comparison. Well, as you can see, the apple stands alone. So I don't think there needs to be anything more said than that. Because we're going to show you why next, because it's all about the outcomes, right?
And science.
Yes. So I'll let you take over now and explain these.
Well, this is actually my favorite part of talking about with practitioners, and we need to do just a doctor conversation. And I think you were, having you on the scientific and medical advisory board, along with some of your compatriots, the data, I mean, what we're seeing clinically is not something that the medical establishment is even used to. I mean, they can't comprehend the outcomes that we're getting. But when we talk heavy metals and excretion of metals, people will talk about hair and doing different testing, but the primary mechanism for excretion of toxins is urine and stool. Urine being the primary pathway through your kidneys. And Clean Slate is so unique and so effective that we know that if you do a baseline analysis, and when we do baselines, we don't do provoked studies, right? So if you talk with a doctor that does chelation therapy, they typically will want to do a provoked analysis. I would never do a provoked study on myself and would never do it to anyone that I ever worked with, because you're putting them at risk and you're using chelating agents like DMPS or DMSA that basically shake up a snow globe and force a bunch of toxins and metals loose in your body. And then they look to see what can be excreted to provide the data that someone is toxic. Well, if you shake up a snow globe, you can watch and see how those little materials inside the snow globe, the glitter and such, will move around, but then it will settle in different areas from where it was initially. The same thing happens in your body. The last thing you want to do is shake up your snow globe. So by doing an unprovoked baseline, we look at what your body is doing on a pre-basis, what's coming out naturally. And then you can use Clean Slate we usually do a week. And what we had done prior is, for people that are doing the testing, they would start with 10 drops in the morning, 10 drops at night, do that for a week, and then retest a week later. And you're going to see a difference in excretion of different metals and toxins coming out. And I think on this, we can see a little bit. You can see some rubidium. Well, the barium was different. The big one to look at in this is arsenic, right? I believe this was let me see, this is the female, right? This was a male.
Right.
I'm trying to remember just based on looking at data. Oh, I know who this one was.
Look, arsenic, 6.
So this is actually a really fun one to look at, because this is a fairly healthy guy that works in the supplement industry. And I don't know if you can blow that up, but when you look at the arsenic, so the third line down, you can see that he was about, I think it was an 8.2.
6.2.
6.2. And then a week later, and you can see the dates up here. Collection date 131, collection date 28. So a week apart. And that his excretion of arsenic went from a 6.2 to a 34.6. So all 6 times 6 is 36. So almost a 600% increase in excretion of arsenic in a week. But there was no negative effect on his health.
You know what else is interesting was that his creatinine level had gone down within just a week. That's pretty good.
And here was the interesting part of the conversation for him. This is someone that works in the supplement industry, and they were in the process of creating a product to increase NAD levels, which, if you play on our level, we understand that the body produces NAD properly when not toxic. But this created an opportunity to ask a couple of unique questions, because in someone of this instance, I asked him, okay, what's your lifestyle like? Do you have any health conditions? He's like, no, I'm really healthy. I'm like, great. What are you doing right now that would cause you to throw that much arsenic? Because usually you'd see an increase like this in someone with leukemia, because arsenic is the primary cause of leukemia and lymphoma. And he's like, well, I'm testing some supplements and we're using a powder as the base. I'm like, great. What's the base of the powder? Brown rice flour to be gluten-free? He's like, yeah, actually that's correct. I'm like, great. You're poisoning yourself with arsenic. You don't even know it, because arsenic is stored in rice, and the rice flour that you're using is the same as everyone else does. The amount that you're doing, you're just poisoning yourself with arsenic on a continual basis. And he got a little quiet. I'm like, so one, I think from a supplement manufacturer standpoint, you might want to do a little extra research, but you might want to stop that, and you might want to keep doing what you've been doing, because we're getting all that arsenic out. But we see this, and the important part is you can look at the data, but every individual, as Dory mentions, is unique. So these results are not something that I would see. It's not something that Dory would see. It's not something that anyone else will see. And urine excretion is a snapshot, right? It's looking at that period of time on what's coming out of your body. And that's what's so unique and so fun, is as deep down the clinical rabbit hole as you want to go, this product will follow you and will produce outcomes, because it's not about your metabolism. Oh, look, there's more.
Let's look at this one.
Which one was this? Let me see.
We put them all together, 3, same person. Look at the dates, like January.
Oh yeah. So
January 8th, January 18th, January 25th.
This was really, really cool, because you see the changes in cadmium, from the baseline. You look at the adjustments in arsenic, and you can see the changes of different things being flushed at different times. And the coolest part of this, because we started on the 8th, I think, right? Collection date of the 7th. The third collection was done on the 25th, right? And in this conversation, and Glenn called me, and he's like, that neuropathy stuff I had in my feet? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't have it anymore, and I haven't finished the first bottle, and here's my labs. I'm like, well, what do you see differently? And you can see it based on excretion, but then also you see it in outcomes. And I think this goes back to the one thing, like we were touching on, is if you have a month of use with Clean Slate, and there's only a few instances where people say, well, I didn't get any results. If you take the time, if one of your friends or your family or a customer of yours or someone you share with comes back to you with the response, well, I didn't get any results. How's your sleep been? What have you dealt with in the past? Why was this intriguing to try in the first place? Well, I had blood pressure problems, or I had this, or I had that, or I had that. Great. How's that been for you over the last month? And usually what you'll get for feedback is, oh, I don't have that anymore. I didn't think of it. That's the key of being passive. You won't feel a lot of stuff change, but the adage of out of sight, out of mind is so crucial, because as your body becomes healthy, it does not have a memory of, say, the joint pain in your knees. If the joint pain is no longer there, your body is not going to remind you that it used to hurt. You just won't feel it. So it takes the mental time to sit back and look and go, I used to have knee problems. but now my knees don't hurt. And all I've done is this, and this has happened over this period of time. And you go, oh, and then you get to see fun stuff like this in 10 minutes.
38-year-old smoker.
Then we had her take 10 drops and waited 10 minutes, drew a little more blood, threw it under the slide, and you can see what her red blood cells look like. And this is kind of crucial for a couple aspects, because you can see how the red blood cells restructure. You can see the energy coming off of them. And here's the secret. This wasn't with Clean Slate as it is now, which is even stronger than what these results are. So
Cool. Okay, well, now it's time for Dr. Stefan Rao to unmute himself so he can explain this.
Yes, here I am.
The floor is yours. Could you please explain
What can I say? This was the test I've done last year about the heart rate variability.
Yes.
As you see, this is one of the major measurements you can do to see what happens in your autonomic nerve system, or how you can see what happens in your body with the stress level or something like that. And what we can see here is on the left side before, a measurement with 300 heartbeats. And then after these 5 minutes, so it's just about 5 minutes, the client took 10 drops of Clean Slate and 0 in. And then there was another 5-minute measurement. And you can see here on above, you can see the ECG here, yeah. And above, you see the rhythmogram.
Before and after here.
Yeah. Okay. And on the left side, it's like a street, the rhythmogram. On the right side, after taking the 0 in and the Clean Slate, it's like waves on the, it's like waves, yeah. And this is the variability of your heartbeat. And you see above the points A, B, C, D, which are standing for the cardiovascular adaptations in blue. It increases from 50 to 80, 98%. It's incredible. The second is the green one. It's a vegetative regulation.
That's 99%.
99, okay. It's a little bit
better.
doesn't matter, just 1 point. It doesn't matter. It's about 49% increased. And the second is the vegetative regulation, where you can see the sympathicus and the parasympathicus and the neurohormonal activation. And this is increased about 43%. The most interesting thing is the next one, which stands for the hypothalamus and the pineal gland and the brain. It's a yellow one. This is increased about 55%. And this is what you can see when you make a measurement. The first thing, when you take Clean Slate and 0 in, this increases very quickly in this measurement, yeah. And what we can see here, the health index is totally increased about 50% by using the root Clean Slate and 0 in about, I don't know what's the time was in this measurement, half an hour or?
it was 45 minutes.
45 minutes, yeah.
But can I just stop you for 1 second? Because when you're going over this, I got to thinking about that, you know, in this time period, they probably didn't really feel anything, but you can see that it's actually being registered through this device, right? The heart rate variability. You don't feel it, just like you mentioned before on some of our talks, that you don't feel when you have oxidative stress. You're not feeling that, right?
That's right.
So I think that's a really good point, that you see it like here is proof, right? Here you can see it actually working, but you're not feeling it, but it is doing something.
And this is amazing. When the people first saw their biological age after the measurement, this is the most important thing we are showing here with these products I'm testing and the other products too I'm testing, or other things.
I have another slide
Client saw
for you.
his biological age. This is the stress index we can see here. It's a little bit small for me. Left side before and right side after. And here you can see that root clean slate and zero reduces the stress index. It's a yellow circle
Right
here on the left side is the stress index. It's just it's just good. It's not red. It's yellow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On the right side it's green, and it's about 38, I think so. Huh? A little bit small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vitality also increases.
So who doesn't want more vitality and less stress in this world today?
What
Yeah.
is what does it say? Vegetative balance index. What does that mean? So what is
This what you can see on the left side, this bar on the left side.
this here?
No, this bar here, yeah. The green, yellow, red
Oh, I see.
bar
Oh,
here.
I see it now.
On the left side and the right part.
Mm-hmm.
There you can see the vitality.
Oh, yeah, down
There,
here.
yeah, exactly there.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, whoa, look at that.
Yeah.
That's so impressive.
This is impressive, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's
I don't often see this when I do these measurements. And this is the energy. Energy is the most important things. Also, when you get older, you need energy when you get older because your metabolism is changing.
Boy, do we ever.
I got my t-shirts, energy balance. I told you a lot this week about the EMF.
Oh, good.
With this energy wear, but this also is working very well. What you can see here in this energy pyramid is on the left side. The blue one is the anabolism, on the right, the red one is the catabolism, and you can see what happens there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your explanation. And then we have testimonials that we've gone through, and we can see Tommy's results. This had just happened in 3 months. He has fatty liver disease, right? And look at his numbers coming down into this normal range on this one here, this one here, and this one is well, like it came from. This is pretty significant. He's going to retest himself shortly. And then, of course, we saw Mark and his amazing results. And the money he saved just, I mean, it's pretty substantial as well. Incredible. And here you can see, like in Teresa with her gadolinium poisoning, like just again, 1 to 2 drops twice a day to start. That's how they started. And they're getting results, just in a few weeks. So I'm just kind of going over this quickly because, these are on the YouTube as well, but it's just to show you, like these are outcomes that, we've been experiencing with the product. Here's Andy, Romaine, Andrea. We have Rich, Angel Brain we've heard from. And then we have the studies, and we have lots of studies here. And I just, we just put them in here. This is just to show people that, what's behind these presentations, all of these things here. So that's it.
It becomes a little bit redundant, doesn't it?
Well, that's it for our presentation. I hope that kind of got to see the importance of being able to, take a product. It's not like, the whole point was you have to give it time. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's a process. We're born toxic, and every day we just take more and more in. I mean, we're living in this toxic environment.
You crushed it. And now I'm going to hop over.
And now it's time for your other call. And again, thank you, Claire, for your contribution and everything you do for us.
Love you, Claire. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye. Bye.